Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I know so many seniors are anxious about the impending Medicaid cuts, so I wanted to highlight some information in this video to give you some better direction. And I don't want to be an alarmist. There's nothing to be alarmed about. What we're seeing with the Medicaid cuts is that the requirements for eligibility may become more stringent. And so many seniors are wondering whether or not, if they plan on applying for Medicaid, they will be denied, as well as current recipients of Medicaid, whether there will be a reduction in their services. Both of those are likely. And so I want to present some alternatives for you to think about. One of that being moving abroad, which is a long-term plan, but Medicaid is about long-term planning anyway, as well as becoming a medical tourist. So I have set up a business that helps people move abroad as well as secure health, and I help Americans that are underinsured or unable to receive the care that they deserve to receive it in Colombia. So if you're interested in that and you are frustrated and you're sick and tired of the healthcare system in the United States, then you could reach out to me. The link for my company, Access Wellness Abroad, will be in the description box. And so in this video, we're going to discuss Medicaid liens. Medicaid Estate Recovery Program Medicaid Estate Recovery Program gives Medicaid the right to recoup the cost of long-term care for an individual when they pass away, in the form of placing a lien on that person's assets. And so Medicaid Estate Recovery, which is available in 49 out of the 50 states in the United States, it allows Medicaid to recoup the cost of long-term care. And so this is specifically where individuals that are 55 years of age or older and relying on Medicaid to cover long-term care. And so individuals that are younger than 55 are not subject to this unless a few exceptions are met. And that is, there's evidence of fraud or misrepresentation in the person's assets while they're under 55 years of age, as well as if the person has been institutionalized or is in a long-term care facility, then Medicaid reserves the right to recover. However, typically individuals that receive Medicaid and that are under 55 years of age, Medicaid just waives that and doesn't seek to recover. But when a person reaches that magic age of 55 years, this is when you're going to want to start planning, especially if you believe that you're going to be relying on long-term care. And that's in the form of a nursing home facility, or a nursing aide is going to come to your home to take care of you. So why this 55-year-old benchmark? Well, when the statute was written in the 1960s, Medicaid estate recovery was about being reimbursed for long-term care costs that a person who's aging and declining in their health would experience. And so to not overburden the Medicaid system, Medicaid said, well, we will just place a lien on the assets to recover the cost of care for that individual. Now, individuals under 55 years of age are still seen as relatively young and taking care of families. And so Medicaid did not want to burden them with imposing a lien that they would have to pay back. And so this lien is placed on people who are 55 years of age or older, so as to not burden a younger person that's still raising their family. And so the way the lien works is that it may be placed on the assets that an individual owns, and that could be a primary residence, or it can also be their bank accounts or their IRAs. So owning these assets, just as a baseline, I want you to understand that owning assets does not exempt you from being able to receive Medicaid. You can still qualify for Medicaid, but guess what? Medicaid wants to be paid back when you pass away. That's what we'll discuss in this video. And so it's very important that you do some planning so as to avoid this Medicaid lien that's looming in. So you could be receiving the gold standard of medical care, but that lien has to be paid back. And your survivors, the people you leave behind, will be responsible for paying it back, not for it coming out of their pockets, but from it coming out of your estate. So that means that they will be inheriting a smaller estate value. And so a Medicaid lien is the legal claim by the state to recover costs of long-term care, nursing home care programs. And the lien can be placed pre-death, which is filed while the person is alive, but only if they are permanently institutionalized, if they are permanently placed in a nursing care facility, or post deaths through estate recovery after the Medicaid recipient dies. So, yes, your home is at risk if you have not utilized the appropriate estate planning tools to take the asset out of your name and placing it in the trust, for example, then your home is at risk of having this lien be placed on the home. But the lien does not have to be paid back while you're still alive. But upon your passing, this is when Medicaid may come in to recover. But the state may delay recovery if a few situations exist. And that is, you have a surviving spouse, a child under 21 years of old, 21 years of age, as well as a disabled child living in the home. One of these must be true, not all of them. The state also grants hardship exemptions for a caregiver that's living in the house for at least 2 years in some states, but the caregiver must show that they actually were a resident of that home for the set period of time, and that paying back the lien would cause undue hardship. So if the caregiver can present that, that may result in Medicaid delaying or forgiving the recovery. But planning is key. Again, important tools that you can use to not have to deal with Medicaid liens involve irrevocable trust if created early enough. Remember, there's a 5-year look back before applying to Medicaid, which that transfer into the irrevocable trust will be scrutinized. And so you may be penalized or deemed ineligible for Medicaid during that period. So planning is key. There's also the caregiver child exemption, life estate deeds, and gifting strategies, but this is dependent on what states consider transferring the asset out of your name. So the bottom line is, if Medicaid pays from the long-term care, the government may claim repayment from your estate, especially your home, because that's typically people's biggest asset, unless proactive planning is used. So, what is your estate? So, Medicaid recovery applies only to assets that pass through probate, meaning the asset is still in your name at the time of passing and must pass through probate in order to be distributed to your heirs. That is where Medicaid will step in and say, wait a minute, we have a lien on this asset. This is in the name of the recipient at the time of their passing, and we expect to be paid back from it. The important rule of thumb is that Medicaid reserves the right to go after assets that still remain in your estate. So if you have transferred the asset out of your name prior to passing, then Medicaid can no longer recover that asset. So anything remaining in the Medicaid recipient's name at the time of passing is fair game for Medicaid to come in and seek to recover. So at the time of passing, assets that are in the decedent's name, in the person who passed away's name, at that time, then Medicaid can place a lien on that and seek to recover. Also, assets that must go through probate before it is distributed to the heirs. So even though there's a will in place, a will is insufficient to protect you from the Medicaid lien because a will has to be submitted to probate to be verified. So because of that, it's still a part of your estate. Medicaid can go after that asset. So some examples are a solely owned home, a home that is only in the name of the Medicaid recipient. Yes, Medicaid can place a lien on that home. Solely owned bank accounts. Yes. Personal property not in trust. So all of these are examples of assets that remain in the name of the Medicaid recipient. And so Medicaid has the right to recoup the cost based on the value of the long-term care. So assets that are non-probate, meaning they've transferred automatically upon death, usually avoid estate recovery. So we're going to give you some examples. Joint tenancy with right of survivorship, meaning two people own the property. So Medicaid cannot recover because it's owned in tandem with someone else. Assets with named beneficiary does not pass through probate, passes automatically to the beneficiary. Payable transfer on death accounts, again, passes automatically to the beneficiary, no probate needed. Revocable living trust. Guess what? When you place your assets into a revocable living trust, they're still part of your estate. So, usually recoverable estate law includes revocable trust as an estate definition. So, you want to check with your state whether placing assets into a revocable trust is still considered part of your estate. Irrevocable trust, not recoverable, because once you place assets into an irrevocable trust, it's no longer part of your estate, but the assets belong to the trust, irrevocable trust, as well as ladybird deed, enhanced life estates, not recoverable. So these are some examples of where Medicaid can seek to recover upon the passing of a Medicaid recipient, and examples where they will not. Again, planning is key. And so I want to reiterate that Medicaid seeks to recover the cost of long term care for individuals that are 55 years of age and relying on Medicaid to cover long term care costs, because long term care is extremely expensive. Individuals that are younger than 55 years of age are typically exempt from Medicaid coming to place a lien on their property, but only under very narrow circumstances where there's fraud or misrepresentation regarding Medicaid eligibility, as well as if the individual is institutionalized. So a lien may be placed. But typically, Medicaid waives any liens or does not place lien on assets of individuals that are younger than 55 years of age, because they're still considered young and able bodies, and any conditions they may have are seen perhaps as short term, and that person still has the opportunity to go back to work. And Medicaid does not want to penalize them by placing liens on their assets when they're still building wealth. And the state law allows Medicaid to recoup the cost of the long-term care insurance for individuals that are 55 years of age or older. The amounts vary, but as you know, nursing home care, long-term care is extremely costly. Most of these liens will be in the six figures. And so it's very important to avoid burdening your family with having to pay back this lien, that you do the appropriate planning. If you have questions, please let me know in the comments section regarding this. Also, if you're curious about moving abroad and you do not know where to begin, my website is in the description box. We walk you through the things that you need to be thinking about, and we also walk you through the steps of residency, applying for residency, finding an apartment, finding a suitable school for you if you have children, things that you need to be thinking about the state side. Do you need to do estate planning in the United States? And do documents need to be translated? So we have a full team to help you if you're concerned about this. Also setting up health insurance in that country. If you're concerned about healthcare and you want to become a medical tourist, we do also have that service available to you. We have a trip that we're planning to go to Colombia in the next few weeks. So if you are underinsured, or you would like to get more extensive testing that you are not allowed to get because of your current health insurance, and you want to get robust, extensive healthcare and meet with compassionate doctors, then I would start thinking about becoming a medical tourist. This is for you. This is for your health. Whether the healthcare system in the United States improves in the next few years, do you want to wait, or do you want to get first class healthcare? Because that's what you deserve. But unfortunately, many of us are going to have to travel abroad in order to get first class, extensive, native healthcare facilitated by compassionate, knowledgeable doctors. And so begin thinking about that. If you have questions regarding moving abroad or medical tourism, please don't hesitate. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.